Good morning, everybody. Right, I hope some of you are going to join me and that I'm not going to be talking to myself for the next 10 minutes or so. I think I'm just going to give people a few minutes. Hopefully you'll start joining. Ah, Claire's here. Hi, Claire. You're the first one. Well done. Oh, I've got 2 people watching now. Brilliant. 3. Excellent. Miller. Hi, Miller. Okay, that's good. I'm just going to give people a couple of minutes to join us and then we'll get started. So my starter's been bubbling away all night. This actually doesn't really need feeding. It's so active. I could use that straight away. Hi, Gail. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Sue. Excellent. Loads of people. 10 people. This is probably the most I've ever had on a live. This is really exciting. Hi, Kate. Yeah, everybody's coming on. So I was just saying that my starter actually probably doesn't need feeding this morning because I've used it and built it up so much this week where I've been sending you guys all your starters that it's ready to go this morning. But I'm going to feed it anyway. So for people that are completely new at this, I will feed it anyway so you can see the whole process from start to finish. Okay, morning everyone. Okay, so we've got about 10 people watching, which is great already. And then people are going to watch back afterwards because I know it's not always convenient when we do these. So if I just show you this, so right, if we get started then, here's my starter which is fed. So I'm guessing this is what you guys have got. Apologies for my nail varnish which I've just lost all on my right hand. So that's the starter which I'm going to take out in a minute and feed. This, I thought I'd show you this as well. This is called the leaven. So this is what you're going to make overnight tonight. So it doesn't look like this when you start off. It looks like a very, very thick paste of flour and water and some starter mixed together. It's an active starter that goes in there, which is why we activate the starter about 6 to 12 hours before making the leaven. And then this was just left to ferment overnight. It was very, very small and paste-like last night. And then this morning I've got a beautiful bubbly active leaven which is going to make some fantastic bread. So that is your sort of second stage of bread making. So right, for the starter, what you guys need to do is, I think I said take out about 100 grams. If you've got around about sort of 200, 300 grams of starter, what you want to do, and let's get my scales activated on the machine here. Now, I'm going to do this slightly differently to you because I'm actually going to make some cookies afterwards. So I'm going to use my discard and I'm also then going to use some discard to give as a starter to somebody else who's going to join the workshop tonight. So the first thing you guys will want to do, so this is going to be slightly different for you, is take out, I would say, take out 100 grams of your starter. Okay, so and that is your discard, all right? So once you've taken out your 100 grams of starter, you want to feed back 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. I'm going to take out slightly more than that. So I'm just going to take out some for the cookies to start with. So here we go. And these cookies I've actually had my eye on for a while and some of you guys have beat me to it. So that's about 180 grams. Then I'm going to take out some for another customer. So I hope I'm going to have enough left, I should do, yeah. So I'm going to take out about 100 grams for him. There we are. So put that to one side. And then, so what's left in the pot, hang on, let's get a spatula. What's left in the pot, I'm just going to give a scrape around. You can see my pot is... I've been using this one for months, so it's got plastered with flour and water everywhere. So I've got about that much left, which is probably about what you guys will have. So with that, I'm just going to feed that with about, you guys are going to do 50 grams flour and 50 grams water. I'm just going to feed a little more because it's active. And I want to build it back up again for anybody that might want to have some more. So I'm just weighing in, using the Thermomix's weighing scales, which is what you guys are going to do. So you've been doing this anyway throughout the week once you've received your starters. So that's my 100 grams. And then just 100 grams of water. as well. And that's all we need to do to activate the starter. Give it a good feed and then it will be ready. Hang on, if you've got questions for me, pop them in the chat. Oh, I should do this as a Zoom really, and then you guys can talk. I have to keep an eye on the chat, hang on. So I'm just gonna stir it all around in that pot and bring it back to a really thick paste. Okay, so I'm actually struggling to stir the spatula. You want that starter all the time when you feed it as a thick paste. Okay, so looking a bit like that. It doesn't really fall off the spoon. It'll drop now because of gravity. So if any time when you feed and your starter is runny, just add a tablespoon or 2 of extra flour. So yeah, hi Sue. Right, I put in 100 grams of each, but you guys, if you've only got sort of 100 or 200 to 300 grams of starter, what I would do is take out about 100 grams. You don't want to overwhelm it. And then feed back 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. As long as you've got 150 grams of flour to start with tonight, sorry, 150 grams of starter to use tonight, you'll be fine. And then a little bit left over that you will obviously feed. So make sure you've got, we are going to be taking out 150 grams of this starter tonight to make the leaven with. So make sure you've got a good, well, at least 150 grams in here, but ideally you probably want somewhere between 200 and 300 grams because of course you want some left over then to feed for the next time, ready for the next time you make bread. So yeah, you can, so it's 50 grams of each is fine for you. I've just got a lot of, I've got a lot in here. I can afford to take a lot out. So I've taken 2 lots out for people. So I've fed back 100 grams of each, but you guys, it would be fine to feed back 50 grams of flour and 50 grams of water. Can I use the discard later today? Millis says, should I keep it in the fridge? If you're going to use it today, you can just keep it at room temperature. So just like this. You can also keep the discard in the fridge in a bag or in a pot if you want to, and build up a few sort of days at a time, so that you've then got enough to do other things with. Some of the recipes, I think the banana bread one asked for about 250 grams or 8 ounces of discard, which is quite a lot. You'd need quite a big starter to be able to get your 8 ounces out. Jackie says, I'm using the starter you sent in the post. I've just emptied it out of the packet. Didn't see I needed to decant it and feed. Yeah, yes. So you're going to be now probably, Jackie, a little bit behind because yeah, you should have done 2 feeds prior to this morning. So we'll see. If your starter gets really bubbly and looks really active later, you might get away with it. But I don't think you're going to have quite enough to work with tonight. So you might have to just reschedule your sourdough for a couple of days' time. Any other questions so far? No. So that is the starter fed. And all I'm going to do, it's really warm in this kitchen. The sun's coming in through the glass. I'm just going to leave it now. So I've just got one of these Kilner jars. I pop the lid on like that. I'm not going to secure it down with a clip. It's absolutely fine. And I will leave it at room temperature. And what you'll see is that you see this line here. This will then, when it's ready to use, will double in size. So I will get that the starter will come up to about here, and then I know as soon as you hit that point you're ready to go, you can use it. We're obviously going to wait just because that's easier and I can make sure that everybody will be at the same point together, but as soon as your starter is doubled in size you're good to go. And that will just, the time taken will depend on how active your starter is, how good your starter is, how warm it is in your kitchen. So it's not really an exact science. All of the information I give you today are guides, and you will need to take that away and adapt it to what suits you best. Now, the other thing I should mention as well is if you use a different type of flour, so if you're going to be using rye in it or wholemeal, that will affect the amount of water that you will need to use when you are making the dough as well. It won't affect the starter itself. It's fine if you just keep everything in like a 1-to-1 ratio, but you'll find flours like rye and wholemeal and even spelt are a lot thirstier than just refined sort of strong white bread flour. Hang on a minute, if I got another message. Should I not close the kiln jar? I would be tempted not to, Kate, just because these guys are really active. And I would hate for it to sort of blow the top off or just leak out everywhere. I don't think it needs to be, it doesn't need to be airtight. I mean, you can see there's a few sort of gaps with the lid. I just plonk it on like that. So I would just put the lid on and not bother securing it with the clips. Okay, have I got any other questions? Right, no other questions for the time being. So if you've got questions, then just pop them into the chat. Right, so with the discard, so remember I've taken out some to use. So I'm going to use it in a recipe. Right, I'm just going to load it onto my machine. And this is the one that I've had my eye on for a long while. And a few people, I know, Sue, you've done it this week. And I know a few others people have done it this week. And it looks really, really good. So rather than chucking it, which I know we don't like to do because we're British and we don't like to waste things, if you're really active with your starter and using it a lot, you won't have any discard at all, because actually if you get to a point, if you're making bread sort of 2 or 3 times a week, you can just use what you take out, because your starter is so active, to start your leaven. But if you're only sort of baking once a week, once every couple of weeks, you will need to take out some starter and either chuck it or use it in a discard recipe so that you can then feed your starter back. Okay, right, hopefully that makes sense. I know it sounds, it does sound a confusing process. It's actually remarkably simple. When we've used the starter today, do we have to feed it every day? No, I wouldn't bother feeding it every day. I would just recharge it before you make bread. Yeah, otherwise you're just going to end up chucking loads, and then you know, it can become quite expensive. And the whole point of what we're doing is showing you how much more cost effective it is to make these sorts of things at home rather than buying them ready-made in a supermarket or from a farmer's market. Okay, so 8 ounces of unsalted butter. So let's get my butter. I'm really excited about doing these cookies, actually. It was either this or the banana bread, but my kid's absolutely addicted to those large cookies from Lidl, so I thought I'd give them a treat after school today and do this instead. Let's just get my butter. Some of it, most of it is homemade, actually. I actually got it out of the fridge, so it's lovely and soft. I remember to do that. Now, this is an American recipe, so it's all in ounces. Okay. Oh, Sue says they're amazing. Right, so put in 8 ounces of butter. So nice, soft butter. I think I'm going to need some sugar in a minute, which I didn't get out of my cupboard. Everybody always laughs when I go into my cupboard at demos because they see just how much stuff I've got round in there. Right, that'll do. 8.1. 3.5 ounces of sugar. Actually, that's not too bad. I'm going to use some light brown sugar, if I can find it. Dark brown. Oh, where's my light brown sugar? Here it is. I'm going to use the light brown sugar, so 3.5 ounces going in. Always throws me slightly working in ounces. I much prefer working in grams. Okay, 3.5 ounces of sugar gone in. 6 ounces of dark brown sugar. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't think there was a lot of sugar in there. Thought they were going to be really healthy for once. Big tip. Right, 6 ounces of brown sugar. So we've had basically 9.5 ounces of sugar going in. Whoops. Come on, out out of the packet, that will do, 5.6 ounces, that's enough. So now I want to put the lid on. Let's find the lid. And turn it, it's going to mix for 30 seconds at speed 5. Okay, so let me see while it's mixing if I've got any other questions. Jackie, will I be able to feed it again today or put another 50 grams of each in now? So Jackie, if you've just opened it, I would put in 50 grams immediately of flour and water, stir it together and see what happens by mid-afternoon. If it's bubbling, you might get away with it. You might then be able to take out 100 and then feed back another 100. Where do we find this recipe? Okay, Miller, so this is, it's on Cookie Dough. It's called Sourdough Discard Cookies, I believe. And it is on the American Cookie Dough, so you will need to take off the UK filter and filter on English. Which is something that I always recommend when you're searching for recipes. If you cannot find a recipe, it's because you have a UK filter on there. So take that filter completely off and then add the English filter. You do have to do it every time, and it is a little frustrating. I agree, I find that myself. But the important thing is don't leave the UK filter on, because if you do that, even though you tick English, you'll still only be pulling out UK recipes. Okay, so that's creamed down together, and now it wants me to scrape the sides round. So give it a little bit of a poke with my spatula. 1 large egg. Okie doke. So egg goes in. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. Oh, now where is that? Let's have a little look. I've got that in my cupboard. Bit of vanilla extract. And then put the lid on again. And turn that to speed 3.5. Now while that's doing that, what I'm going to do is just show you sort of the next step of the process. So this was the leaven that we are going to make tonight, but I made some last night. Now what you need to get your head around is your timings here. So if you start activating your starter in the morning and you make your leaven in the evening, you will be baking at about 5 to 6 o'clock the next day. So you will have bread ready in the evening. Now, if you want bread ready in the morning, you then need to go sort of 12 hours before those timings. So you will be wanting to activate your starter at night. What we want to do, we want to make our leaven at night. So I made this about midnight last night. So you want to activate your starter about 6 to 12 hours earlier than that, so sort of mid-morning or the afternoon. And then, so you make your leaven at midnight, and then you will start making your dough in the morning, okay? So let's just pop this in here, right. I'm just taking my leaven. Normally I make my leaven in the Thermomix bowl anyway, so I don't normally do it in a separate bowl. And I think I've just confused you with those timings, actually. I've just confused myself, but yeah, so if you want, so let's think about this. If you want to bake in the morning and have bread ready for breakfast, you are going to have to make your dough the last thing at night, so sort of 10 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock at night, because then it will ferment in your fridge overnight and be ready to bake in the morning. So if you're making your dough 9, 10 o'clock at night, you will be making your leaven in the morning, okay, which means you will be feeding your starter 6 to 12 hours before, so just before you go to bed. So that's the timings if you want fresh bread ready for breakfast. Now, the reason I don't recommend that to start with for people is that if things start going wrong and it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when you're trying to shape loaves and it's not going very well, you are going to be tired and getting very cross and grumpy with it. If things go wrong in the morning, it's a lot easier when we're not tired to deal with them. And plus I'm on hand as well during the day to answer any questions that you have. The other thing is that if you leave them to ferment in the fridge overnight, obviously when you go to bed, you have no idea what's going on in that fridge. You just have to make sure that you get up 8 hours afterwards and bake those, bake that bread. But if you ferment them during the daytime, which we're going to be doing tomorrow, with the timings that you're going to follow with my schedule, you can keep an eye on it. So you can see sometimes if the starter's really active, the bread will be ready to bake before the 8 hours. And obviously if you're asleep overnight, you would miss that. And then the loaves are at risk of sort of blowing and you'll end up with they'll over ferment and then you won't end up with very nice bread when you bake it. So it's much better to do the timings like this to start with, even though you get bread out in the evening. But you can manage it a lot better and you can keep your eye on it. And then when you know what you're doing, you can gear yourself up for a morning bake. Okay. Right, so let's have a look in here. So far I've just creamed together the butter, the sugar, the egg, and some vanilla extract. Now it wants me to put in 13 ounces of all-purpose flour. So let's get to make sure I've got my flour. Reset my scales to 0 and put in 13 ounces. Okay, there we are. Click on next, bit of baking soda. Oh, I wasn't very organised this morning. Bicarbonate. So baking soda, the US baking soda is just bicarbonate of soda. Okay. Can you post the timings if possible? Yeah, so Gail, I put the timings actually for our bake tomorrow. I've done a Facebook post this morning with all the timings. Okay. So you'll see that. So 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, which is bicarbonate of soda in the UK. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So that goes in. Insert the measuring cup into mixing your lid. And then mix it for 4.5. Let's do 4.5 for 20 seconds. So this is just going to be the basis of our cookie dough. Right. While that's happening, so my leaven's gone in here. What I'm going to do, so the second part of the process, and we will do this in detail tomorrow, but because I'm going to be making some bread today, I thought I'd show it to you anyway. So the second part of the process is once you've got your leaven ready, you then, let's have a quick look, and there we go, it's fine. You then need to add 400 grams of flour to it. So let me move you over, I've got my TM5 here. 400 grams of flour. So again, if you are using rye or wholemeal, you may need to just alter the flour quantity or the water quantity slightly. But I find with just making a white loaf, 400 grams of bread flour is about right. So that goes in. So this is just adding to my leaven. And then, that's my water. I'm going to add in 270 grams of water. So here's my water going in. So this is the start of the dough, okay? So we've activated the starter, we've made the leaven, and now we're beginning to make the dough. So hopefully I'll have this dough ready to bake by about 8 o'clock tonight. So lid on, and then all I'm going to do with that is just mix it for about 10 seconds at speed 5, okay? And that's going to mix all that new flour and water into the leaven. And then we're going to leave it. So this is a really important stage. It's called, and I will go all through this tomorrow, it's called autolyzing. So you can see that I've mixed it together. A dough ball has begun to form. Now it looks quite sticky. That's fine, don't worry about that. That will come together. So now we're going to leave it to what they call it autolyze. I'm just going to scrape down the sides because I've had a fair amount kick up around the sides, which can happen sometimes with bread making. we're going to let it autolyse, and all autolyse means is just allow those starch grains to, or starch molecules to absorb the water. So we're going to do that for half an hour, just half an hour. And then I'm going to add 12 grams of salt, and then I'm going to set a knead function for 5 minutes. But you guys will all be doing this with me tomorrow. I just thought I'd show you the process to start with while I was doing this live this morning. Okay, so here is my cookie dough. That looks really good. Okay, I don't think I put the starter in yet. Did I put the starter in? Did I miss that step? Hang on a minute, let's have a look at the... So, butter... Oh, yes, I haven't actually put the starter in. Whoops. Why did nobody say that? Right. Let's add the starter in now, and then I'll remix it. So the whole point of these are that they are sourdough starter discard. Hilarious. Right. It's a good job you lot are already customers, isn't it? Right, let's pop that in. So it's about 4 ounces, which is 160 or so grams. There we are. So I put that in. Now I'm going to mix it round again. It's probably not going to like it now. So let's go back to my recipe and just mix it again for 20 seconds to get all of that. So the starter is this, Jackie, and the leaven is starter with added flour and water. Okay, so it's what you use to begin the bread making process. So it's a bit more like bread than the starter. So the starter is just the yeast, and the leaven contains the yeast and more flour and water. So effectively, the leaven is a starter that it has gone to stage 2 on that bread making process. Right, there we are. So that's gone in, and now I want to add some chocolate chips, 14 ounces of them. Wow, that's a lot of chocolate chips, 14 ounces. This is going to make a lot of cookies, so I think I'm going to be freezing this cookie dough, actually. Wow. My kids will be very happy. They're going to be very upset that they're missing this, actually. And then pop the lid on. And again, 15 seconds before. Now, it does look quite wet to me, that mixture. So what I think I'm going to do is probably put it in the fridge to firm it up before I try and roll it out and cut out cookie shapes. That's mixing all those chocolate chips around. It's a massive recipe. I only did half and still had massive cookies. Yeah, I'm thinking that now. Mind you, it's American. Everything is bigger and better in America. But yeah, I'm going to half it and probably put half in the freezer for next week. Alright, so click on next, scrape down the sides. Oh, wants me to do it again. So Kate's been making these cookies as well. Kate's a baker. How did you find them, Kate? Did they work out well? I would say that it's quite a sticky mixture, but then I did put a little bit of extra starter. That is a big bag of chocolate chips. Oh, it wasn't Kate, it was Vicky that said she'd done them. Sorry, Vicky. Did you find the mixture difficult to roll out, or was it okay? So mixing again. This is what happens when I get involved on lives. I thought to myself, this is only going to take 5 minutes. All I'm going to do is feed a starter. But there you go, I can't help myself. I've started cooking as well. And that's the trouble, isn't it? Well, actually the trouble, it's the joy when you have a Thermomix. Because it just makes it so easy. And it makes you want to just cook more. And they taste lovely. Massive bag, yeah. This is my... I'm not showing off now, I promise. Yeah, I get these in Booker actually, but you can order them on Amazon, and I think they're slightly cheaper on Amazon. But yeah, they are fantastic bags of chocolate, well, fantastic chocolate and really handy to have in the cupboard, although they do keep disappearing, the chocolate chips, and all the children deny it. And I'm certain it's not me. We hand rolled it, it was sticky. Yeah, okay. Right, so now it says with a tablespoon, scoop, so that would suggest to me, let me just show you this dough, there we go, you can see it's quite sticky, although I did add a bit of extra starter. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There we are. Now it's telling me to, with a tablespoon, scoop 12 balls of dough and transfer them to a prepared baking sheet and flatten slightly. So that would suggest to me that the dough is supposed to be sticky. Let's just go and do that. Let me get a baking sheet out. You'll see here we go. I've got pizza here with the crusts cut off because one of my children has pizza for lunch, and I'm fed up of finding half the pizza left in his lunchbox because he doesn't like crusts. He doesn't just leave the crusts, he leaves half the pizza as well. So now my solution is to cut the crusts off, which means I get to nibble on them as well, which I probably shouldn't. Right, let's get my large baking sheet out. Here's a nice big baking sheet. I was a bit disappointed when I made them, but I think I made them a little too big. Okay. So, what I used to do at my children's cookery parties, have I got one in here? I might not do, I think they might be all still in my cookery party kit. I used to use an ice cream scoop for measuring out cupcakes, and that's quite good as well for doing cookies and things like that. Although obviously you don't want a huge ice cream scoop because you'd end up with gigantic sized cookies the size of your head. Let's pop a little bit of baking paper on there. Vicky says they taste lovely. Right, so let's have a little look. Transfer dough balls to a prepared baking sheet and flatten slightly. Right, so I've got a scoop and it is sticky, but it's okay. So let's just pop a little scoop. Now that and flatten. Can you see what I'm doing? Let's move that around so that you can see. God, you have to be presenter, camera person, lighting, everything when you do this job. So let's give that a go. Now that's quite a big mound of mixture and they will spread. So I'm going to, what I probably will do is put them in the fridge as well. I'm going to get my oven on, which I actually should have done to start with. Crikey, there's just so much chocolate in these, I can't believe it. It's because you can tell I was doing this on a live because I was actually just blindly following the recipe and not actually thinking about it. But if I was doing this with my children, I wouldn't have let them put all 14 ounces in. I'd have said, no, you can't, you know, let's halve the amount. But there's chocolate, there's almost more chocolate chip than there is mixture. They grow, you can't get 12 on that tray. No, I'm not going to attempt that, Rachel, thank you. So I'm just going to pop maybe 6 on and see what happens. And then, like I said, what I'm gonna do is freeze the rest of the mixture so that we can have them next week. So let's put another dollop on, and then I think I'll probably get away with 1 dollop there. And a dollop here. I do love a spreading cookie. The cookies that and I do still buy them in Lidl, when every time I go in there, my children beg me for them. And every time it pains me to spend like 45p on a cookie when I know that I could make an entire batch for about 45p. But they look promising, I think, is what I'm trying to say. They look like they're going to spread, and they look like they're going to sort of come to the shape, nice sort of flat, squishy, gorgeous cookies. So I'm going to go with that, and then I've still got, can you see, I've still got all of that mixture left, but like I said, I'm not going to worry about that today. I'm going to put that in the freezer and use it for next week. So I've got ready-made cookie dough mixture in the freezer. So these now need to cook. Let's just check the time on here. 12 to 14 minutes at 325 degrees. So that is about 325, I reckon, is about 170, 180. I will just double check that though. It might be slightly lower. But they do look nice, I must admit. I shouldn't really be tempting myself with things like that. I'm supposed to be being good, but hey, it's the run up to Christmas. Right, so I think that's probably it for the time being. Oh, let me show you this. So that is just my dough that I've left to autolyse. and I will just leave it another sort of 10-15 minutes, add the salt and then set the knead function. And then I might actually just pop on after it's kneaded and show you very quickly how to shape them as a little bit of a bonus today, so that you know what you're doing tomorrow. But we will be doing it together tomorrow as well. So I just wanted to make sure I've answered everybody's questions. Gail says, I made focaccia the other day when I was playing. Excellent. Did that turn out well? And Jane's done that as well. It was fabulous. So has anybody got any other questions for me? But if not, I will see you. I'll probably jump on in about 15-20 minutes. But if you can't make that, I will see you this evening for making up the leaven. And I promise it will be 5 minutes. It's because I'll have dinner going on as well. So thanks for watching and good luck today. And I'm really looking forward to seeing all your bread tomorrow.